Welcome back to Heal, a podcast for Change by Fire, healing, empowering, accepting, and living. I'm Julie Piccone, founder of Change by Fire and the Arizona Walk of Courage, and I am one of your hosts.
And my name is Lori Janik, and I'm a 15-year burn advocate, social worker, and current trauma and grief specialist in the community.
In our last two episodes, we had the opportunity to interview the hypno queen, Linda Bennett. We got to learn all about hypnotherapy and the natural state of mind that helps promote relaxation physically and mentally. We also got to speak with Shannon Kilcrin, a burn scar massage therapist, that shared with us her techniques of really helping soothe and settle the body with a loving touch. Now, with Linda, she shared with us a great tool, which was the waterfall meditation. So if you hadn't had an opportunity to listen to that yet, stay tuned at the end of our episode and we will share with you how you can get a copy of that.
So, today's episode, we're going to shift our focus a little bit more into trauma informed supports in the healing journey. How can you really become more aware of and work with the impact of your injury, your healing journey, and just how it may have had a toll on your body, your sense of self, life, your purpose, your walk forward? So, come with us as we explore how your body may be keeping the score of some of your needs. Let's get healing. So, how would you define trauma, Julie? When you think about that word trauma, what do you think of? What comes to mind for you?
I would say anytime you go through a situation where maybe your nervous system, can't maybe keep up or it kind of, I would say like, I'm thinking in my mind, like it gets like lodged or like it gets stuck.
hmm
And so it doesn't maybe process through um, as smoothly as maybe other experiences in life.
When I think of trauma, I definitely think of that same word stuck or a block. Obviously, from a therapy realm, I think of, okay, like something's feels too big or too much for my current level of coping ability to navigate, to handle.
Hmm.
So it gets kind of stuck somewhere in your system. Going to our definitions,
Oh,
always is great to
yes.
start with a
Yep.
definition. A trauma, simply defined, is a deeply distressing or disturbing experience. And that's really subjective to who is
Hmm.
experiencing it. What may be traumatic to me may be different to someone else in the community, may be different to you. So it's very important to honor how a trauma impacts each individual person. Traumas create a lasting response in a person that can affect how they see safety, how they see themselves, how they see their environment, others within their environment. Trauma can really affect someone's ability to manage emotions, their
Hmm.
place overall in relationships. In the therapy realm, we really talk about three different types of trauma. So, also being mindful of how trauma may impact you depending on how it is experienced. So, there's acute trauma, which is really one single incident. Then there's more of a sense of chronic trauma, which can be a repeated or a prolonged exposure to a series of events. Then complex trauma is more a variety of different events, different situations, different platforms of experience. Basically, the more trauma you experience in your life, meaning the more situations where you feel out of control or unable to maybe fully cope with or navigate what's going on in around you, the more disconnect that can happen between your brain, between your body, and that can lead to a variety of things. So, we're talking about trauma can consist of physical injury. Trauma can consist of a disconnect, like I'm not really feeling or connecting to different pieces, parts of my body. Trauma can be a buildup of body tension, pain. Trauma can be in terms of a dysregulation of emotions, a variety of different things. And it can create such a big shift in our patterns of how we see and how we experience the world, how we're used to living. And it can also be a very daunting and isolating experience. So, if I think about trauma in terms of our burn survivors and burn recoveries, there's multiple platforms of trauma here. There's the initial injury, the initial accident. There's every dressing change. There's the surgery experiences. There's physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy at times. There's that transition back to home, that transition to school, to work, to community. There's oftentimes the facing of things that maybe you couldn't do or can't do just yet, which then is going to affect how you feel about yourself, how you feel in the context family, your community. And then there can be a really big and overwhelming sense of isolation, especially when there's any change or any difference surrounding trauma. And many individuals might not have a family or people around them that can support that. So, an even bigger sense of isolation. And that sense of alone, that almost separation from others, and especially separation from yourself, that's the real healing work that really we're trying to bring in here and address with a lot of our alternative therapies. And that's often that work that lies far beyond that initial hospital injury, surgeries, and stay.
Well, like you mentioned, these traumatic experiences can really create this heightened sense of not really feeling safe. So
Hmm.
within ourselves, with others, and just with life experiences. And so with that comes multiple emotions,
Hmm.
multiple responses, ranging from shock to denial to anger, fear, avoidance, and really so much more. And with that, all of this can create turmoil within the body. And I think you mentioned that because there is an imbalance between the brain and the body. So tension, headaches, sleep issues, hypervigilance,
Hmm.
chronic pain, dangerous coping mechanisms,
Hmm.
and so much more when it comes to that. Thankfully, with time passing, times changing, there have been practices that have been found and discovered that have helped individuals support them in their healing journey from trauma. So, a lot of those may be somatic practices, body work, yoga therapy, energy work. And those have helped make such a huge difference in helping burn survivors and those affected by trauma really carry and live through their life. And so, we are so, so excited today to learn further about such trauma supports from our guest speaker, Chrissy Shaver with Live Well Training Center. I've had the pleasure of knowing Chrissy for over 5 years. Her and I have embarked on a journey together of healing and trauma recovery. There was no surface level snorkeling, we were going scuba diving. And we have had opportunities to get certified in a trauma method called the SHIP method. And we've really dived into different healing modalities and techniques. Chrissy has helped support Change by Fire and burn survivors with our Equine Therapy Day that we host every year in November.
Chrissy, we would love to learn more about Live Well Training Center, about your specific work as a trauma informed movement specialist there, and just how trauma informed care can truly make a difference. So, how did you get started out doing what you do? What does that mean in terms of how you work with individuals through healing?
Oh, well, first of all, thank you for having me on today. I'm super excited. And listening to you guys talk about the definitions of trauma, I'm like, yes, 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 yes. Seen it, been there, right? Lived it myself, as far as some of those traumas go. But getting involved in as a trauma informed movement specialist. So I've almost 30 years of experience in the health and fitness industry. And in 2019, Julie said we took this course together, the SHIP method, bringing in that trauma informed piece that is so, so important in what I do. Because fitness, it's scary. People are like, I don't want to go to the gym. And it means we've got to deal with ourselves and deal with, body shame that we don't know how to deal with and stuff. So being trauma informed has really allowed me to take a different approach with people. So sometimes people say, oh, well, aren't you a personal trainer? And I'm like, well, kind of a hybrid model because I have taken these 30 years of your traditional strength and movement. And now I can meet people so much differently being trauma informed. And I work specifically with the nervous system. So I can meet the person on that day, wherever their emotions are. If they want to move their body and they're ready to work out or move in that way, we can. And if their system is off and they just need to kind of sit, we can come and just sit and be peaceful and let them kind of emote and use their voice to, or just breathe and allow the emotions to move so they can come back into their heart. So they don't have, because the world moves so fast. It's just like we carry enough and then we get so much more thrown at us. It really is a good way to, people come in the center. There's everything here for them. It's such a safe, peaceful place. Unless I have my music playing, I have a group going. It's not so peaceful, but it's still fun and safe, right? But it makes people smile. And that's kind of our biggest goal here is, can we allow people to slow down just enough to where we can smile and find the joy in the day again? So I don't know if that answers your question. I think I kind of went off, but it's flowing.
No, what I'm hearing is you're kind of like a personal trainer for someone's nervous system. It's like I meet you and teach you like how to read the cues of safety within your own body and learn to kind of settle and work with yourself, which I love that.
Yeah. If we're not aware of what's happening inside, we can go to the gym, you can work out, you can walk, you can do the things, but it's not going to have the biggest effect or the outcome maybe that you're looking for. So we're not aware, muscles aren't firing, then we're moving the body, which is good, but it can be so much better if we really tune into the muscles, the body that we're working, because we can help regulate ourselves. I mean, there's times I'll just be bouncing around. There's times we'll go out here and I have rings hanging up there and we just, if we need it, we're just swinging on the rings. And just, it just makes people laugh. It's like, oh, hi, they go back with another practitioner and here's one of us swinging on the rings, like literally at the playground. So, which is what we call the workout area, is we call it the playground.
The playground. I love that. It's bringing that sense of play back into kind of like movement and what people perceive like fitness and health as work. I mean, yes, might there be some elements of work, but there's also elements of play. There's also elements of connection there.
Yes, Chrissy is all about that inner child play. I had an opportunity to see Chrissy a couple weeks ago at one of their events that they do. And there was some commotion going on in like one of the rooms. And many of the practitioners emerged with like full on like costumes. I think Chrissy was like maybe a dinosaur. There was like a shark maybe.
I love it.
And they were just, it was so fun that it encouraged so many of us to like, we got to go online and buy our costume, because if you think about it, like as a child, it's all about, getting in a costume and like imaginary play and having fun and creativity. And then we become adults and it's like, we got to be serious. And so sometimes it's hard to figure out, well, what is fun? And really tuning into what we need. So I love that. Well, I have a question for you. How did you create Live Well Training Center? So tell us a little bit about its creation, its mission to support, others through life's sufferings.
Yeah. So funny. So my business partner, Kate, and I had someone come to me and she knew Kate, two different worlds, strength training, yoga world. And she's like, oh, well, Kate wants to like train she wants to do yoga on the west side. And I was like, oh, I have a space. He's like, we totally could, but it wasn't the right time. So I kept her number. And then eventually when I moved to a different space, it was time. And she had posted, she came in, she taught yoga in my studio for probably a good year. And through that time, might have been longer. I think it was longer. It was all through COVID. And then through COVID, we talked about creating this wellness center. And we just kind of laughed about it, like, yeah, that would be great if we could ever do that. And then literally within the same week or so, we both kind of had this image of Live Well. We didn't know it was Live Well at the time, but a wellness center where people can come and feel welcome, feel safe, they can heal. We all, like with all the different practitioners and trying to hit each facet of health, each facet of the body, of emotions, and working together. And she came in one day, she's like, hey, you ready? You want to do this? And this was about August. And I was like, yeah, let's do it. I didn't even think about it. I was like, yeah, whatever you say, let's go. So we started planning and doing all this and that. And mind you, I was taking care of my 97-year-old grandma at the time, and she was sick. We had a realtor looking for space for us, called us. He's like, hey, found the perfect place for you guys. No build out. It's yours. Came and looked at it. The day we were signing the lease for this, the next day, my grandma passed, and then we were moving, and this was in October. And then it was a month of just like, I can't believe this is happening, but it actually helped me through that process of, I have to build this. I'm dealing with my emotions. I'm going through the grieving process. Everything of trauma you mentioned in the beginning, like happened in that time. We moved in here in December, and Kate's dad got sick. It was like, I was finally like moving through that grieving process. And then it was like, Kate took care of me during that time. And then Kate's dad got sick. So then I started taking care of, and it was really a painful but beautiful process. What we both went through, we say if we didn't have Live Well, it was the most difficult time for both of us, to actually create something so beautiful in such a most difficult time for our lives. And from there, like, we just keep seeing it bigger and bigger. We're like, this isn't the only location that we have. So we do have this dream, this vision of having multiple Live Well training centers, so that people can get the wholeness, come back to who they are. And it's, just really working together from two completely different perspectives. And it's just beautiful how the people just come to, they just walk through or contact one of us, and they're like, I want to be in your space. Like, I saw your post and I'm ready. And they're just perfect. Right. So we have 3 new people that are ready to come in May, and it couldn't work out more beautiful. We're working on like even getting into the financial trauma piece so that people have that, because we see a lot of people that come in where money is just, that's one of those big traumas that, whether we're not taught about it or we're taught in such a way that money is like, we need more, but we didn't have, it's so scary. Right. Mm-hmm. So really making a complete circle of wholeness for people to help with the money wounds and the inner child wounds. And like, Julie, were talking about play that night. There was one gal that she got in her costume, and it just freaked her out being in this inflatable, because they were all inflatables. And she was like, I don't know what's happening. And it was like, it's okay. You don't have to get in it right now. We'll breathe on that later. And she was just like, all of a sudden overcome with whatever it was. We don't need to know why it was, but play is hard for a lot of adults. So for me, I like to think of play as, yeah, you guys see me like when you come in here, I'm swinging on the rings or running around or in the dinosaur inflatable, right? But play, I like to now define that, because learning, I thought, oh, play is easy. It's not easy. So allowing yourself to be seen in that inner child way, right, is something that we like to bring into Live Well, because it's basically, where are you comfortable? And if you're not comfortable getting into, like, we'll use that, right, getting into the inflatable, then you don't need to. And when you're ready, you can jump in and play. But nobody's forcing anybody to, like, I have hopscotch pads that I put down too. Nobody's forcing you. If you're like, no, I want to, but I really don't want to. Or hula hoop, you're like, oh, wait, but I don't. When your system is ready, we're ready for you. And when your system's not, we're right there next to you, supporting you in that also. So that's kind of the beauty of Live Well. It's like educate people, embody, empower, and really giving people that space and to teach themselves the boundaries to, if I don't want to, I don't have to. I can remove myself. That. Need to.
Thank you for sharing all of that.
Yeah.
Well, I love even more so how it's like you both were the first really participants in kind of creating this organization. Both of you had an opportunity to really practice and participate and companion and support each other through what it is. And I think that just has to have just increased the vision and the meaning and the value for it for you both.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Living it is, there's no better experience. If you've been through it, you can actually help support someone a little bit more through it, especially if you're doing your own work through it.
I would 100% agree with that. So what kinds of, I know you mentioned a little bit about like the financial piece that's brought people to your organization, but what kind of life sufferings, what kind of difficulties might be leading people to Live Well Training Center? What are some of the different things that you do there outside of this love the playground idea to further support everyone and kind of like finding and building their sense of wellness?
Yeah. So we have a lot of people come in, whether it's chronic pain.
Mm.
We have grief, like I mentioned, low confidence, depression, anxiety, pretty much your definition that you read in the beginning. A lot of that
Trauma.
is the trauma. Yeah, right. And even so, like for me, when I started my journey, I was like, oh, my life was great. I don't have any traumas. And then I had like one or two sessions and I'm like, wait, what? It's like, okay, well, we just opened that can. I didn't realize, like, even being bullied in school, right? In grade school, in kindergarten, I'm 53 years old, and I'm like, oh yeah, okay, we're going way back and digging that up to be the person that I know I can be inside. But all of that, it starts in the womb, right? And we don't even realize that the emotions that we carry start in the womb. And actually before that, but but as we go, right? So all of those wounds. So and now, being that everybody was locked down, I have some people that they were afraid to leave the house. And so we thank Zoom, actually, we can reach people that either can't come to the center or, we can do this on Zoom and have sessions with people so they can find that. Personally, like I'm in menopause, so reaching out and teaching women about menopause because I was in denial for a really long time. So denial is another emotion that we have that we help women with. We help even men with, because we say women have menopause, but men go through a transition also. So whether they're not feeling strong, the bones hurt, the joints hurt, we have people that can help with that. We also have people that can help in relationship, whether it's betrayal, or just learning how to communicate, whether it's a partner, a friend, anybody that you come in contact with. I feel like we're losing that communication piece because of our phones and the texting. People don't know how to talk. So we have Danny that does, she teaches with communications. We have a business coach here. So really getting that confidence and knowing where to start in your business and how to grow it. Whether you've been in business for years or just starting with yoga therapy. We have some people coming in events. We're going to do some special yoga events monthly. We have an esthetician coming in. We're a nice full house.
Love it. It's like all the different aspects of yourself to really build just like wholly all the different ways that you could be affected outside of just like the internal, some of our basic functioning.
Yeah. Learning to move your body how it was made to move. Just to release muscles and joints. So we get a little stiff, or we always carry, like to say we have our backpack, which is why we carry a lot of stuff here. So if we have a backpack on, our shoulders get sore.
Are we talking physical backpacks or metaphorical backpacks or both?
Well, I want you to metaphorically think you have a backpack on and you're in high school or junior high now of all these books they got to carry, but there's not books in that backpack. Think about all the emotions of everybody you or talk to. We start to carry that and we feel that up in our shoulders, and it goes up into our neck, or it can go down into our arms. So always looking at pain points in the body and where we need to release. And sometimes breath helps to release that. And sometimes we don't need to know what it is, but just allowing and giving our body space to breathe and move the energy through. We can slowly start to unpack that backpack or completely take it off and not carry it anymore.
Yeah, I love that. What have you seen in your work, your individual work with clients? How have you seen trauma-informed care really address the body and the brain components of that?
So for me personally, I've had people come in for traditional strength training. And we're in a session and all of a sudden the emotions start flowing. And I had one mom her daughter was getting ready to go to college. So she was kind of almost in grief that she was going to be out of state and not be, they were like always together. So she was moving out of state and it was really hard on her. And all of a sudden she just like, she was laying on the ground in a bridge. If you guys know what a bridge is, laying on the ground, hips are up, and she had holding a sandbag. So she had a weight above her. It was 10 pounds. And all of a sudden she just like brought her hips down, laid there, put the bag on her stomach, and emotions just let out. Now, mind you, 10 years ago, I would have been like, oh my gosh, what is happening? I don't know what. Are we done? Like, I don't know what, right? I wouldn't know really. I could comfort her, but not in a way that I can now. So I just simply asked her what was happening, what she was feeling. And right away she says, how did you know she was 10 pounds? And I was like, what do you mean? And she goes, my daughter was 10 pounds when she was born. And I gave her that 10-pound bag on that day to hold above her to help give her a little bit of weight in this exercise we were doing. Her strength training session turned into an emotional release. And so she could actually leave, and her coloring was different. Like once she was able to talk that through and know that she's just a phone call away and she can go whenever she needed to, and just all of the things, right? She had mom guilt of not being a good mom, and all of the things came up in that one session from one simple exercise. And it turned into a 30-minute breath session, and allowing and giving space and knowing that she's going to be right there and she can come home whenever she needed her to, or she could go see her. And she left so much lighter. But all morning she said she had been a wreck and she didn't know why. And that one thing gave her that. So I think that's one of my favorite stories because it was very unexpected. That's not why she came in that day. She's like, today we're not going to do the breath stuff. I just want to work out. I want to move. And I'm like, okay. And then her body said, no, we're going to lay here and we're going to process through so you can leave much lighter and not feel so stressed today. So yeah, I mean, that's one. There's many, many more as far as like putting down that backpack.
Yeah.
So,
well, I love how you met her where she needed to be met in that moment. And I think that's so much of what, healing is all about, especially when we're supporting those in a healing journey, is what we think we might need may be different than what we really do need. And being able to come alongside people and help them and just support them in that capacity and hold space for them.
I think that was a really great example too of her body still did some work. It just was in a different way than she initially walked in and was thinking on.
And think of how much stronger she is.
Yeah, it just opened up. She said she was exhausted. She felt like she had worked out, but yet she was lighter at the same time. So it's allowing ourselves to shift in that moment when our body has something to say. And that's that body awareness. Like, why can't I hold this up anymore? Right? It's because she hold it, not she needed to embrace that feeling, not just hold it above her head. So yeah.
So for an individual who's walked through trauma, and this would actually be an example of one that may or may not have been fully aware of it, what kind of words of wisdom do you think you can offer and support, and really being mindful and attentive to their needs and their readiness to explore further healing? Because I imagine you receive individuals at all different levels of readiness to embrace kind of where they're at. What guidance could you give them?
So for someone that so that's funny because I was thinking of this morning. You're saying that, and the story came through from this morning when I was golfing. It's actually literally, if I wanted to hit that ball, when I hit the ball well, which isn't often, I had to pause. I would approach the ball. So if you follow me in this, like when I would approach the ball, I put my club in front of the ball, and then I would look down to where I'm hitting it. So that's my path of where I would like the ball to go, right? So to me, I metaphorically, I love metaphors. For me to see that path, that's like life, because we see where we maybe want to get, or sometimes we don't know where we want to get to. As I approach the ball, I have to pause. So we don't take that pause. We just approach it. We just run. You just like, I see it. I'm just going to just hit it, right? As fast as you can. So I had to pause, and I looked at the ball and I felt my breath moving through my body. So I did that exhale. And then when I was ready, to draw the club back, I would inhale and draw my club back. I would pause again for the second time. So I was all the way up, and then I would pause at the top. And then when I was ready, I would exhale and allow the club to follow through and approach and hit the ball, and it would go straight, whether it went high or it went low, but it would go straight. So for me, if you have to allow the pause before you don't want to just jump right into something. And in this, like I say this, and I was kind of laughing because I'm like, oh, Chrissy, you need to listen to your own words, is what you're saying. You need to pause, right? I say it all the time, but I don't always hear it. So you have to pause before you exhale and swing through, because your follow through without the pause is not going to be pretty, right? It's usually going to go in the rough. So, and that's usually the rough, like, oh, why is this happening to me today? Well, step back, take your pause, and it's almost like a restart. So sometimes the journey is beautiful, and sometimes we're in the rough and it's like, oh, right, frustrating. And so for me, the biggest piece of advice is when things get hard and you feel like it's rough, take a pause and maybe step back, take a big inhale, and then just exhale with a sigh, and then take your step forward and see if it feels much lighter.
I love that. That's very much kind of moving from a sense of reaction to like a mindful response. It reminds me of I'm a big reading fan. It reminds me of Viktor Frankl in that sense of your greatest kind of power. And I may be getting this off somewhat, but between that sense of stimulus and response, there's your opportunity for change. That pause, that space, that's your opportunity for change, for shifting, for stepping into what you need to, what you want to, what you can at that moment. Love that.
Yeah.
I love that. Now, how might a burn survivor or a loved one benefit from Live Well Training Center from a more somatically originated supports and healing?
For a burn survivor and their families, I think it's connection. We really teach people, every practitioner that we have in here, and even the new ones that come in that I've visited with just a little bit, I feel like there's a sense of connection and heart that we all love to share. Because if we're connected with our hearts, it's going to help that communication, comes back to that communication, whether it's with the family to the burn survivor or for that burn survivor to communicate back to the family member. And maybe that's asking for help, actually vocalizing what they need help with on either side, right? Even friends of the burn survivor, like they may not know either. So a lot of communication and asking for help and teaching. So also teaching you how to breathe, how to not feel so heavy in your body. For me, I love to teach people, anybody, like move your body when you feel stuck. Move your body. Like if you're sitting up straight, if you're sitting in your car, even just like let your body shift side to side, because we get so rigid, especially in the spine or even the legs. If you're standing for a while, if you lock your knees out, your legs are going to fatigue. So if we just bend the knees a little bit, or maybe even bounce, it helps loosen the body. So lightening up the body a little bit, teaching people, maybe you just need to take time and lay on the wall if you can and throw your legs up the wall and lay there and breathe. I've had families do this where I've had one client and then I get a text like, I was just laying on the floor with my legs up the wall and my daughter came and laid with me, and then my son came and laid with me, and the dog came and laid with me. I was like, that's beautiful. Right. So bringing in a more connectedness to bring families together to actually have that support at home, as well as people do when they come in here, giving them that safety inside that, you know what, things might be different now, and different sometimes is okay.
Yes, I love that. Now, how can our listeners get in contact with you and Live Well Training Center?
So the easiest way is to go to livewelltrainingcenter.com, and all of our practitioners are on there. Also, we do have our Live Well phone. The phone number is 480-586-7492. And then that's kind of the easiest way because you can click on each practitioner. If you read through them and you're like, oh, I want to do that, I need to talk to them. Everybody offers consultations to know if we're a right fit, and nobody gives any pressure. We're all sometimes too giving, but that's our hearts, right? It's like, call us, talk to us if you just have a question about something. So a question about something I said here today, call me, talk to me, and I'll answer any questions. And I can almost say all of the other providers do too.
Yep. Are you guys on social media?
We are on social media. You can find us on Facebook and Instagram, Live Well Training Center.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. I love when it's easy like that too. When it's just a simple like reminder, like website, and there's not any additional kind of like shortenings or acronyms of like, oh, well, that's easy. It's just the name. Even
Yep.
better.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you so much, Chrissy, for all of the information that you provided about trauma-informed healing, about the offerings that Live Well Training Center has, about the impact it can make in our community, like burns and beyond. And it really an amazing sense of supports and really wholeness that you've been and are and continue to be building within your location. And as a part of each podcast, we like to provide our listeners with a takeaway skill technique that usually has some relation to whatever theme, whatever guest we have on our podcast. Do you have one maybe that you might like to share with our listeners? That could be some feedback, that could be an actual technique, that could be, a little glimmer or nugget of wisdom.
So I talked a little bit about moving your body.
Mhm.
That's kind of my specialty, is getting people to move. So allow yourself to be different.
Ooh.
Breathe. If you feel like you're stuck, allow your body to move. If you see me in a grocery store, you'll see me. I'll either be swaying back and forth, I'll be moving my spine, I can be doing wrist circles if my knees feel tight, or elbows. Move your body around wherever you feel tight. Allow it to just glide. And if it doesn't move a lot, move it a little bit. Sometimes we think if we have to do something, we have to do it really big. Sometimes even visualizing that area moving, whether it's side to side, up or down, turning your head up, down, yes, no's. It helps to really just move that energy. So you're like, okay, I feel okay. Wiggle, shake your body, like whatever. Have a tantrum if you need to have a tantrum. For me, it's really be different and be who you are.
I love that. And I love just even that sense of movement in terms of we can't always fix or immediately fix or adjust situations in our life, but your body, that's where you do have some opportunity to move from that fixed or that stuck state to a more mobile state. So great.
Awesome. Well, Change by Fire is a 501(c)(3) nonprofit that is committed to coming alongside burn survivors and helping support them in their healing journey, utilizing alternative holistic healing modalities that are complementary to things that they may already be using. To learn more about Change by Fire, visit our website at changedbyfire.org or follow us on Instagram and Facebook under Change by Fire.
And until next time, think on how trauma might have impacted you. Explore different ways to notice it in your mind, your body habits. Allow yourself to move, to work with, to really attune to those needs that your body's telling you, and live toward your well. We'll see you soon.